Welcome to Close the Door and Come Here, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast with heavy leanings towards our two favorite characters, Jamie and Brienne. Hey everyone, I'm Guile, and you can find me at Guile and Subterfuge on Blue Sky, and today I'm joined by Kama.
Hi, I'm Kama, and you can find me at Kama's Place on Blue Sky.
And today we're going to talk about Reek's third chapter in A Dance with Dragons. And given that it's a Reek chapter, I would just say trigger warning for rape, torture. Yeah, those are the biggies. I suspect there's probably some other trigger warnings, but it's a Reek chapter. Let's be real. So as far as Reek chapters go, this one is a little bit better than some of them, I'm gonna say. So we start out with Ramsay and his party coming back to gosh, I can't remember, like they're near Barrowtown, but like not quite at like Lady Dustin's hall.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on where they are, unfortunately, but basically they're coming back from a hunt or a search party, more or less, at this point. And from Theon's perspective, like, we kind of get like he's so smelly that no one can stand him except like the dogs genuinely kind of love him. And, the dogs are coming back and like coming all over him and jumping around for pets, and he kind of has to fight them off because like they're so much stronger than he is because he's just absolutely wasting away.
Yes. It sounds real rough. Like he's not in good shape.
Yeah. And one of Ramsay's kind of key guys is this Ben Bones. And Ben, I think, is the one who had told Theon or Reek previously that Ramsay names the dogs after the women who gave him, that he killed, but were like, gave him some fun, some good sport before they died. And, one of the things that Reek thinks is that, oh, there's going to be one in the next litter named Kira. So we, remember Kira from previous chapters. So that's kind of sad. And we also get a little bit on the Walders. So, we find out that this hunting party was basically looking for the lost Freys that are on their way, that, we know what happens to them, but Ramsay and his gang were kind of looking for them and they didn't find anything. And so Reek's terrified that Ramsay's going to be pissed. Ramsay actually doesn't seem like in that bad of a mood, but we get a little bit about the Walders as well. So like Ramsay is ordering Reek to take care of his horse and stuff, and Little Walder's the jerk, and Big Walder's the nicer one. And so go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say nicer is a comparative term, but
yeah. So Little Walder is also kind of demanding that Reek take care of his horse, and Big Walder just kind of ignores him. So Reek and Big Walder have enough of a relationship that, Big Walder kind of gives him the lowdown, like, oh, they found some guy on the road with his goats and they killed him just for the fun of it, basically, and took his goats. It sounds like food is pretty short. Not surprising, I guess, as we're coming along winter. But Ramsay's still ordering a feast because like his people haven't eaten. So Reek is not allowed at the high. He's not. He's kind of has to sit in the back because he smells so bad. But he'll get some food because the dogs. He'll get what the dogs get. He'll get some scraps. But then there's kind of this awful part where the dogs go after like the steward's old dog too and like kill him and everything. And it's just like you kind of, you feel bad for the dogs for having to be so savage, but also like this poor old dog that this old guy has, like that made me feel bad.
This is a real rough chapter. I mean, I like parts of it, but it's, oh God. Like it just never stops giving a horror.
Yeah, I mean, like basically they're talking about they're cleaning up the blood and everything, the carcass of this dead dog when Roose rolls in, and you know, basically Reek is terrified. Roos is kind of calling everyone out, and Reek is terrified that Ramsay's going to go after him. But Ramsay kind of, he cows to his dad, quite a bit, and Ramsay or Roos is basically like, well, you can't go to Barrow Hall because Lady Dustin hates you, and assumes that you killed Domeric, as we find out, and he basically is like, he wants Ramsay to give him Theon Reek, and Ramsay and Theon doesn't want to go. He's terrified because he's going to get punished. He's just like absolutely terrified, and Ramsay kind of whispers in his ear that you're going to go with him and you're going to tell me everything he says, everything you see. And what's funny is like immediately thereafter, when Roos and Reek are on the road together, Roos is like, "So he told you to tell him everything I said and did, right?"
Oh, Ruth has his son's number, all right. That is very clear.
So we get a few pages of Roos, and Kama, I'm kind of glad that you're on this chapter, because those of you who haven't read Kama's the Night's Queen fan fiction, like, definitely do. And if you kind of are into this chapter, this I feel like was probably the genesis for some of that story for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of it. And I actually took lines from this. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the two. There's two chapters where Theon is stuck with these middle-aged people who overshare, right?
Yeah.
There's the one later on with Barbary Dunstan, which I think we may have already done, and then there's this one where I'm sure he absolutely wanted to hear Ruth sharing the tender romantic tale of how he raped Ramsay's mother, and I mean, it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, we hear about, how basically he saw one of his people's new wives like doing the laundry and thought she was kind of hot. So he decided to rape her because he could still have first nights, right? Like he, talks about how like some of the lords still keep it no matter what, King Jaharis said. And I think he hangs the husband, rapes the wife, but like ultimately it's a bad day because like his favorite horse came up lame on the way home. But he kind of paid off finds out that he has a kid, and he knows that Ramsay's his kid because they have the same eyes, pays everyone off to keep it quiet because he doesn't want any bad talk getting back to the Starks at this point. So that's kind of his incentive there, just to keep like a nice quiet land. That's what he wants. But like, yeah, it was all in all a bad day because his horse came up lame. Just
Well, and he got stuck with Ramsay, who he just seems, so, I don't know, resigned to, but annoyed
yeah,
by.
like, I mean, basically talking about like how he's seemingly kind of happily married to Walda. And she's probably going to have some kids, but Ramsay will kill them before they grow up. But I guess that's okay because no one wants young lords. But Walda will be sad, like
Well,
just so dispassionate about it.
and the stuff about Domeric, like, who,
Yeah,
I mean,
that
again, it seems to have inspired some affection, and certainly from Barbary. And,
Well, and he
also, I think,
sounds like a great, like he was
yeah.
talented musically. He squired in the Vale, and was raised by Lady Dustin. Was just as good on a horse as like Lyanna Stark would have been. Like a
And Ruth,
great jouster, like a son. Sounds like all in all like a great kid, and got wrapped up with Ramsay because he kind of wanted to have a brother in his life. So
and I
like
mean,
a wonderful guy.
Ruth seems fairly proud, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's all very like clinical.
Yeah, he seems proud, but totally like you would think at what point did he not seek revenge on Ramsay for killing Domeric? But I mean, I guess like, they're both his sons, so yeah, just
Well, and he
you know,
says
awful.
he's not wrong when he said boy lords are the bane of, I think, any house. I mean, we've seen already what happens when teenagers are in charge. It's not always good. In fact, it's usually bad. And I think it's worse if there's a child in charge, which is what would happen because he's decided that, he's not going to live long. I mean, but it's all very, what the hell? I mean, it's as a
Oh,
conversation, it's a lot of like, I can only, I mean, even if Theon had not been, physically, emotionally, sexually tortured, which I haven't
yeah,
seen it. I mean, it's an incredibly weird conversation. I
yeah.
kind of love that about it, but
And I did skip over some things. Sorry, everyone. There's more of a conversation between Roose and Ramsay. I was thinking it was after his conversation with Reek, but Roose kind of gives a quick lowdown on what's happening in the north in terms of Stannis marching south and taking back Deepwood Mott, and then that they're basically gonna marry Ramsay to Arya at Winterfell, more or less to lure Stannis there.
which I'd forgotten about.
Yeah. And so that's just one of the, kind of, there's a bit, like Roose is given a lot of strategy to Ramsay, who doesn't seem to be capable of strategy to that extent. Like Ramsay's not dumb, unfortunately, but, but Roose is, quite good at this.
Hmm.
Um, other than Roose sort of depends. I guess like this is an interesting. Maybe this is why Roose is telling the story about Domeric, because if you say the Boltons are Ramsay and Domeric is the Starks, I mean, Roose is expecting the North to act the way he does. Like they're going to rally around the Boltons, no matter what they did to the Starks, in order to survive. I mean,
Yeah,
that's kind of the gamble that he takes. Is that
and
like there's definitely that parallel there.
I question that, but
Oh
if
yeah, I mean,
we're already seeing. In fact, we had a question about the Great Northern Conspiracy. I don't know if you want to hold that off
yeah,
till then.
no, let's do it.
So Buck O'Hare on the Discord asks, any thoughts on the Great Northern Conspiracy? Which Northern lords would you most want to conspire with? Because there's speculation um, about Lady Dustin and some of the others.
Oh, I mean, I think it's obvious that Lady Dustin is like conspiring against the Boltons. Like, as much as she might have misliked Ned Stark, like, Domeric was her nephew, and I think that she feels like he was her son. Like,
Yeah,
there's no way in hell she's going to support
or
the people that killed her son.
well, and obviously, like there are other lords, and I think I don't know. It makes sense to me that this is a thing that exists and people are coming up with it.
I mean, I still think that she wrote the pink letter. And I think she names the lords. She tells John in the letter who the lords that are on the Stark side are, who the turncoats are.
Okay.
But I mean, I know that a lot of people think it's right. There's a bunch of different people, but I do think that it's her. Because I also think like she has all the information because of Theon.
Yeah.
So she
Well,
knows she has just as much, if not, actually, she has far more information than Ramsay does.
well, and there's all sorts of stuff. Like the Walders are talking about, their cousins being missing.
Yeah.
Which we know, Lyman Manderley is in charge of that. Like we
Yeah.
know some of this stuff is happening. So
Yeah, I
I
mean, I think the Umbers, the Glovers, Barbary and her whole, her in-laws, I think they're all down for the Starks.
yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, I think, it's like the bull. I know that the series of books is not going to be completed, but to me, the Boltons and Cersei are your intermediate villains
Yep.
that they, they go before. Like the one I kind of don't know about is Euron, just because I feel like is he like your super super late stage villain, because it sort of feels like he is compared to a
And he's
Cersei and the Boltons, but
he's
otherwise, yeah.
and I think he's tied up. I mean, there's at least some groundwork laid that he's tied up with the more mythical,
Right.
magical parts of things. So yeah, I think the Boltons, and I think you're right, absolutely. Um, I've always liked, as far as who has familiar with, I've always liked Barbary Dunstan. I think her stuff is very funny. And I mean, the fact that this woman who has no child was able to hold on to that house and rule it herself for what, 15, 20 years is
Yeah.
pretty damn impressive.
I
Um,
mean, she's great. Like, I don't, it's like, geez, why did they not, like, was Benjen just too young for her? Because, like, seriously, Starks, like, that would have seemed like an obvious thing to do, except I know Ned wanted to get Benjen out of the way of
mm,
Robert, if the truth about John was found out.
yeah,
But I mean, if that wasn't the case, it would have been like, Jesus, she would have been like the perfect person for him to be
yeah.
with. And just
Or,
like, why wouldn't you? She's like awesome. Like, God.
well, or I don't know if there was some snobbery about her origins because she's not quite as high up as some of the others, but like she's an interesting character, and I think she has the cunning and and you know I like how Ruth is like, because Ramsay is talking about cutting off her breasts and feeding them to whatever, doing all these,
Yeah,
and Ruth is like, okay, if you do that, you're gonna lose these people. Like he's
right.
very pragmatic, and I like all the strategy that's sort of laid out because I
Yeah,
mean,
like
oh, sorry, go ahead.
it's no, I just like I find it shocking that Roose agreed to the red wedding. Like Rob was doomed well before then. And to like do something so like just so out of bounds of society for a gain that he was probably going to gain anyway. Like we know that, like, I don't remember what battle it was, but there was the battle where basically like Roose clearly fucked the rest of the North over and
Oh, the
say,
Green Fork.
yeah, like that kind of shit, sure, because there's really not, like you're going to get away with that. But to literally kill, I mean, Roose killed Rob. Like he's the
Yeah,
one who killed him. Like that is like when you read Roose here and you read this man, like that is an out of bounds action that like he won't kill Ramsay for killing his son, but he killed Rob? Like what?
yeah. That's it's something that really we're examining this closely, and it doesn't hold up to close examination. I mean,
No.
I guess it maybe the argument could be made that when Tywin came to him and is like, look, however, through the letters, this is what we can offer you. Um, Maybe that was tempting enough, the prize of Winterfell. I don't know.
I
But
don't
yeah.
know. I mean, like it
And
just
I mean
seems like a shocking risk to take.
like, so the Battle of the Green Fork is early on, and that's when he disposes of his neighbors, is what he does there.
Yeah.
Um, but like, and I mean, obviously Rob is sort of being doomed along the way. But like, I don't know. It does seem like unless he meant it to establish himself with like, okay, look, I am really as bad as they say, and I'm gonna comfort you if you don't fall in line. Maybe he thought of it that way, but again, he
Yeah.
won't kill his bastard son, even though he killed his legitimate son. I mean, he's already broken one social taboo. What
Right.
at that point, what's another one?
Yeah, like it's shocking, and I also feel like, you know, the way that he's so dismissive of any children he might have with Walda. Walda is not without, Walda's not without help. Like she's afraid. There's like 50 of them. And she's like, I think, isn't Walda? Walda is either big or little Walder's sister, right?
Yes.
And
Um,
she's Merritt's kid. So
yes.
she's got
And Gatehouse Amy is her sister.
yeah, so her sister is the lady of Derry. Pretty, like, yeah, I mean, like, she's not without support. So
So
like you would think her
okay,
kids would have some support. Like it's
and he's not that old. He's like a little older than Ned.
yeah.
He's like maybe 3 to 5 years older. So and granted, it's a medieval society, and older people typically, I mean, you know,
But it's just, yeah, it's a weird, like, one of the, so we're doing 3 chapters today for the sausage making people interested in that side of things. But like, one of the interesting things about these various chapters is like the quality of the writing is like incredible.
hmm
But there are some things in here, like this characterization of such a dispassionate, analytical, strategic Roose that seem at odds with some of his actions and, like just his willingness to completely abandon any future children he might have with
well,
Walt. Like,
I mean, he has. There's definitely conversations we see him having before this, right? But this is probably the most in depth we've gotten to him yet. Like
yeah, and
he
he
has
just,
conversations here and there. There's stuff with Caitlin, um, or Catelyn, sorry. There's stuff
yeah.
with the like like when they see the twins, and he's like, yeah, we can't lay siege to that. But this is the most in depth we've gotten, and I kind of wonder if George just got inspired and just started writing stuff and didn't.
I think you're totally right. Like, I think he just sort of liked this character because also him. Can you imagine the guy in this chapter figuring out the playlist of the Red Wedding with Lothar Frey? Like, no. This guy here, I don't think is a vampire. That other guy is. Like, it's a really inconsistent
This is a
portrait of the
coldly
character.
calculating man, and clearly with a number of personality disorders, but
Yeah.
he is very analytical, to a point. And then the stuff though that's, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I think there is a real disconnect between what he's saying and like the Bruce we've sort of come
And I
to
mean,
know.
I guess, like, is he bullshitting here?
That is entirely possible because again, he knows that um Reek, I refuse to call him Reek. He knows that Theon is going to go back to Ramsay with all this, right? He knows that's going to happen. So how much of this is him also saying things
I mean,
fully
is
aware,
part of his plan to just assume that Ramsay's going to get killed by someone? Like, someone else is going to murder Ramsay because he doesn't want to do it?
or how much of this is him, like, sending a message to Ramsay with
Yeah.
like,
Oh, I
"Hey,
think,
I know what you did. I'm not going to do it." Maybe. See, this is where I really am deeply curious. I know we're never going to get the books, right? But I would really love to know just how much that what they did on the show diverges from what George gave them. Because is in fact is how he kills, is how Bruce dies and Walda dies in the, by the
I
way,
mean,
spoilers.
right.
Um,
I mean, if you're Ramsay, I would think you would. Ramsay, who we know has no restraint and should see Walda as a threat, you would certainly think that he would kill his father. Like, that doesn't seem out of character at all. And Ruth
right,
should know this and should be like, I'm not just going to die. Like, I should kill him. Like, but if he
right.
doesn't want to do that, then, yeah, like
But I mean,
enabling someone
I
else to.
legit don't know if what they did on the show is matches up with what George gave them. Also, we don't know should George ever write any more chapters, which is I think the closest we'll get to this.
Well, yeah, and
We
I
don't
mean,
know what he's changed because
right.
he's made noises that he, you know, wasn't
Well,
happy with stuff that the show did.
and then for these two characters, the last we see of them is in the build up to the battle in Winterfell, where we kind of think that like they're just going to get totally like they're all going to drown in an icy lake and die. Like that's kind of like that's kind of
Yeah.
where that's going too. So I mean, they both might expire there.
Yeah.
Which sort of now as much as I would like that to happen, it does sort of seem like a sad ending for potentially some juicy conflict that I wouldn't mind seeing either. But yeah, it's just I mean, like I really I do like this chapter. Roose is a character you don't really want to be in his head, but he's really interesting.
Yeah,
And
and some of what he says is kind of funny and like
yeah,
in a sick way. And I really think you and I we both have written fiction, and I think he maybe Martin, was writing him and discovered he really liked writing him, so he made changes that, you know, didn't maybe make sense.
yeah, to the guy he talked about before.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, none of the Northern Lords are rather broadly drawn, and this is the first time we get maybe a little deeper in with one of the Northerners.
Right. I mean, because up until this point,
I
I don't know,
guess
it seemed like
the
Wyman
man
Henry
really is.
maybe, but he's something of a
Yeah,
broad strokes kind of guy anyway.
but we just kind of have the Umbers and the Karstarks being like, the herder hurl, and the Mormont ladies just being like sort of, badassy, and we don't really necessarily get like a depth of personality that we do with Roose here.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, I mean, he sticks out. I mean, like amongst the Northerners, he certainly does stick out like a sore thumb, though. Like, imagine the mischief that Roose and Caitlin would have
Oh my God.
done together with all of her bad political thoughts and his strategic acumen combined. Oh, God.
I mean, they could have been, I don't know,
They
power
would have,
couple.
I mean, a power couple with a spectacular fall in their
Yes,
future.
yes. I would have read that. I totally would have read that.
I mean, and there's definitely there those are characters that do have some chemistry, and um yeah, I mean, they definitely have character chemistry to the I'm thinking of, I don't even know, did you write a fan fiction where Caitlin sleeps with him the night before the Red Wedding to save Rob, but then he kills him anyway?
No, I
Okay,
read
you
that,
did
but
read
that
that.
was not me. It was good. It was
It
like,
was
and then
good.
like, isn't like there's I can't remember who wrote this, and I apologize if you're listening. I loved it, but it was like something like the next day she's like, or as he's killing, something like she questions it like as he's, you know, Red Wedding, and he said something like, "I had a better offer." Is that the one you're thinking of?
I think so. Like, I mean, I think like, they had a good time the night before, to be clear.
Yeah.
Oh, kids, don't read fan fiction.
No, no, totally do. It's great.
um,
Well,
so
that's yeah.
the other part in this chapter that we do kind of get a little, Theon smells terrible. Roose wants him to take a bath, and Theon is like super, like so resistant to it that he's like literally crying and sobbing to avoid it. Part because I think like I imagine like I don't know, but I'm guessing that having flayed skin like that would hurt, and
Yeah,
Like,
probably.
and like he doesn't want to take his clothes off because we know that he's been castrated, and but he doesn't want anyone to see, and he's like clinging to these rags. And I also think he'll be punished if he takes them off. So it's just like,
Yeah.
kind of really peak patheticness of we find out about. So I'm sorry, this is like the most non-sequential recap of a chapter ever, but we also get all the backstory on Reek, who was basically this dude that smelled, and like he just naturally smelled bad to the point where he would like try to drink perfume to smell better, and he
Yeah,
didn't.
it's
And
wild.
that's who.
That's wild. It's a wild story. I mean, wild chapter. There's all this stuff going on, and it's just like Jesus Christ.
It is quite a meaty chapter, but yeah, like Ramsey's mom wanted a servant, to befit her son's status, so that's who Ruth sent, and then they basically like corrupted each other because they're both horrible. So, that was the first Reek. So we do get some backstory there. Apparently, he bathed more than any person that Ruth had ever known. Like, seriously, George, this chapter does make me kind of feel like you're pretty fucked up. Like, pretty fucked up chapter. Like some
There's some
seriously weird
seriously
shit in here.
horrible, and it's so weird. Yeah, that's it. It's all like it's very dark horror comic stuff like in there. I mean, it's
And I mean, basically, the gist of the chapter is
ugh.
just like Ruth giving Ramsey some lowdown on what's happening in the North, and taking Theon to meet Barbary Dustin, in which we don't really find out why yet at this point. That's like, if you have to summarize it in a couple of sentences, it's just like, I mean, it's sort of like he wilded out this chapter a bit.
Like I don't the Theon chapters I find incredibly difficult to read, but I like this one and or at least the second half of it. I don't honestly anytime Ramsey's on the page, I don't really want to read it. And I also love the later
Yeah.
one where Barbary Dunstan starts sharing her own
Oh yeah, her own like
baggage.
sex stories with him randomly.
And
Yeah.
again, it is just so much. You are trapped with some middle-aged person who starts talking about the first time they had sex in graphic detail, and you're just like, "What the hell is happening?"
I
It,
mean, Theon's tortured in many ways.
yeah, yeah.
Are there any questions about this? Have I put us in
So
line?
not about the chapter, but we did have a comment I wanted to read. I Dream of Spring from the Discord asked, commenting on our I Dreamed of You app. With regards to Tyrion being the outlier among the four instances of the phrase "I dreamed of you," this is getting into tinfoil territory. But the most common theory about the identity of Septa Lemore is that she is a Sharadane. And I think the Tyrion Targaryen theory is not without merit. So Tyrion saying the phrase to Septa Lemore is maybe not much of as much an outlier or as random as it seems if he's actually a Targaryen. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, then Jamie's well, no, because Dunk says it. No, people say it to Dunk.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, maybe. I just, it's like I hate Tyrion Targaryen so much that I don't really want to think about it. But yeah, I mean, it does make more sense.
I like the irony if he really is Tywin's son or versus, you know, um,
Yeah.
you know, uh, the product of whatever between Aerys and Joanna.
Well, and it feels so like chosen one-ish, where like, oh, the Targaryens, the special blood or whatever, and it's like I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not. um, I feel like I missed about 90% of this chapter, but anything else we want to talk about in it?
I think we actually covered a lot of it. Surprise in
Just
a
not
maybe a
in order.
roundabout way. Yeah.
I think I got so excited about the Roos telling the Roos stories that I forgot about the Roos telling Ramsey stuff, to be honest. So I just wanted to skip ahead to the good parts. Um Well, if you liked this episode, like, subscribe, comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also support us on Patreon. We really do need your questions and comments to help rail us in sometimes. So you can write a comment, send us a comment on the Jamie and Brienne subreddit. You can send a comment to us on Tumblr, and you can do that anonymously if you like, if that's easier. And you can also send us email at closethedoorand@gmail.com. And with that, I am closing the door. Get out.